Hey there, Disc Disciples. Welcome back to another installment of the Morning Round podcast. I'm your host, Greggy Biscuits. We are very pleased to have in the studio for the first time, the virtual studio that is. He's been by the shop before, but top 30 MPO, Colorado's finest, Mr. Aaron Gossage. Welcome to the Morning Round. How are you doing?
Good. How are you? Thanks for having me on the podcast. I always appreciate, getting on, tell people how it's going. So thanks for having me on
Great.
today.
Yeah, we're very happy to have you here on the air, and then also on Team OTB. So welcome to Team OTB. I guess we should do that formality.
Yeah, I appreciate it. I'm happy to be on the team. I think it's a good fit. So looking forward to what's to come.
So again, first time doing a podcast with us. So I usually like to break down a little bit of like, what do you like to do in the morning? What's your approach, not just for golf, but just kind of like what gets you going? Are you a morning person? Do you like to stay up late? Like what's your kind of routine?
Yeah, definitely not a morning person. Got to say that I've been trying to get into a routine, work a little bit more on getting up at a reasonable time and get going with everything. But in general, lately what I've been doing is just going to the gym in the morning, working on some like abs and stretching in the morning, really get going. And then I usually go out and do, a good like hour putting, something like that. This off season, I've been working hard on, trying new putting strokes, messing around with stuff. So I've been putting a lot of work in there. But then after that, during the off season, I usually I'm down in Arizona, so I'll go out with my buddies to like Vista del Camino, something like that, play a
Hmm.
practice round. Sometimes we'll put money on the line. Sometimes we'll film a video, do something for fun. So it's good practice. It's always good to like even if you are working on stuff to actually play some competitive disc golf, put it to use a little bit. Yeah, and then after that, just kind of depends on how I'm feeling that day. Sometimes I'll do some more putting. Sometimes I'll, go do something active like mountain biking, something like that. So overall, just really trying to get in a decent grind with, making some putts in the morning, staying fit. And then I think as the season starts up, it'll become a little bit more routine as,
Hmm.
it'll be instead of, going to Vista and playing some like fun rounds, it'll be, playing practice rounds for the tournaments I'm going to be playing.
Now, I know you've mentioned before, kind of during the season, the tournament almost feels like a relief to you after your practice schedule. And so that's kind of an interesting way to look at it. How do you look at the off season in terms of recharging your batteries? Are you still trying to get that daily round? Is it a couple rounds a week? Or are you kind of focusing on that other cross training?
Yeah, it's a weird dynamic in the off season. So I usually go home to Colorado for a couple months. I'll hang out with the family, spend the holidays with them, and I'll really take that time off mostly. If I
Hmm.
am doing anything, it's just going to the gym, trying to stay fit. But then in January, I come down to Arizona. I live with my aunt and uncle here in Chandler, and
Nice.
since the weather's a lot nicer, yeah, I'm able to do some more practicing and really get back into the grind of things. It is the off season, so it's definitely more casual. And
Hmm.
I think that I try to get around in most days just because if I don't, then I feel like I'm not really doing anything with my life. I don't know.
Hmm.
Since,
Hmm.
disc golf is my job, I feel like, putting the work in for that is the best thing I can be doing.
Plus, it's still fun. So it's nice to always get
Yep.
that round in.
Yeah, exactly.
And you mentioned being there in Arizona, so it is nice to sharpen your tools there with some fellow pros. I know you're out there with Barella. Was Tristan out there a little bit with you?
Yeah.
A couple other people
Ezra
there
spent the
playing
off.
just. Yeah, go
Yeah, a
ahead.
fellow OTB member, Ezra Aderhold, also spent the off season here, so been hanging out with
Hmm.
him. And then Ricky, there's a whole crew of guys. Adam came down for a couple weeks, and then
Hmm.
Parker Welk just moved here. So it's a good group of guys. It's good to film some videos with. We'll do some stuff on Ezra's YouTube channel. We'll
Hmm.
also, do some competitive rounds. And then there are a few A tiers down here as well that I played. Didn't play very well, but it's always good to get back in that competitive mindset.
Hmm. Now, Ezra's been he's been a world traveler though over the last couple of
Yo.
weeks. I hope he brought back driving gloves for everyone.
Yeah, I noticed the gloves. That's pretty funny. But he invited me to go on the trip with him. I needed to get my practice in. I didn't
Hmm.
feel comfortable, going through that whole thing. But it looked like an amazing,
Unbelievable.
bunch of places he went. So one of these years I'll have to do something similar to that.
It seemed to me like he packed like 6 or 7, like, oh, this is a lifetime trip, all just into one trip.
Yep. Yeah, exactly.
Seeing some cool spots. But so things are good down there in Arizona. You how about snacks? What are we doing in the morning? So again, you kind of not maybe getting up that early or not wanting to get up. Coffee guy, little tea.
Yeah, I took a break from coffee for a little while, see how that went, and then it just wasn't my thing. So I'm back to
Mm-hmm.
drinking coffee every morning.
Mm-hmm.
In the mornings, almost every day, I'm making, like 3 eggs, toast, and some bacon. Um, it's not like a huge breakfast, but then I'll go to the gym after that, and
Mm-hmm.
then get some kind of like protein shake, something like that. So I definitely like breakfast. There's a spot up near Ricky's place we always go to for breakfast, which is delicious. So I like it. I just don't get up very early, so it's like I don't know. I'm not
Mm-hmm.
not much of a morning person. Don't have much motivation. So
Yeah, I feel like the pro disc golf schedule is conducive to early rising for the most part. I guess it always depends on when your round is, and so it's tempting if you have that 2:30 tee time. It's like, oh man, probably want to try and sleep in a little bit just so you don't get too worn out kind of before
right,
your round, getting too kind of excited to go play or anticipating things so much. But
yeah, it's kind of
what's your yeah, go ahead.
it's kind of funky with the schedule because you have to like change up your routine based on like when you play in the day. So a
Hmm.
lot of times, I don't know, most NPO players are teeing off around 1, 2 o'clock, somewhere in that range. And
Hmm.
so like most people get in this routine of playing at that time. But if
Hmm.
there's like a cut or if you get like an early tee time on the first day or something like that, sometimes you'll be playing at like 8 a.m. out of
Hmm.
nowhere, and you're like, oh, this
Hmm.
like throws off the whole routine. I got to do something different. So I don't know. It's a little bit funky, but you just kind of have to adapt to it.
Yeah, that's one of those unique wrinkles of the pro tour, right? Where you
Yeah,
can have that a delay or really just the scheduling how it works out versus for the MPO versus the FPO.
yeah, for
Ideally,
sure.
when's your perfect round? So you have no responsibilities for the day. You're just gonna go out. We're doing an afternooner.
Yeah, I'm thinking like 2 o'clock. That's
Okay.
kind of my happy time for like a I don't know professional round. If
Hmm.
I'm doing like a practice round, I think somewhere around like noon is going to be my preferred time,
Hmm.
just to like have a little bit of the daytime left afterwards. I can still go do something afterwards. But yeah, for a tournament, 2 o'clock is probably my ideal thing. That way I get plenty of time to get up in the morning, do
Hmm.
everything I need to do, go do some field work, go do some putting, not feel rushed at all. So but then sometimes it drags on a little bit. You got 2 hours left and you're just
Right.
ready to play. So I don't know, it comes and goes.
I guess that's one of those things that's just going to come with as you're, again, building up these reps, building up these years on tour. You'll kind of get that experience and adapt to that. How are you traveling around this year?
Oh, I just got a new car. I
Okay.
purchased a Toyota RAV4 hybrid. So I think it's a really good car for me. I do a lot of, all kinds of off road kind of stuff, going mountain biking, going up skiing,
Hmm.
stuff like that. So got a vehicle that can handle all the conditions, but it also gets really good gas mileage. So overall, I think it's going to be a good investment because I'll be saving a lot of money, from paying for gas, and
Hmm.
then it'll be a lot nicer, just to travel in. It's a big car, so it can fit all my stuff. So overall, I'm really happy with the car so far. It's been good for me.
And so that was 2 years in the van. Finished up last year. Were you in the van last year again?
Yep. I did 2 years in the van, and then 1 year before that, just kind of I was like half in my my dad's truck in the
Hmm.
camper, and then half in the Honda Civic. So the van was really nice, just as a place to stay. But now that I'm doing more Airbnbs at all these tournaments with Ezra and Brody and Tristan,
Hmm.
um, it makes more sense to just have a car that gets better gas mileage.
Yeah, it's interesting to see how the pros have adapted to that model. If whether going for like the full van or the van and trailer, truck and trailer, just the car. So it sounds like you guys are just again have the car to be comfortable while you're traveling, and then have a little space there at the Airbnb for creativity.
Yeah, exactly.
That's cool. So you mentioned biking, mountain biking a few times, cycling. What else is in your? Tell me a little bit about that. In Colorado, definitely some good climbs there.
Yeah, so I live in Grand Junction, which is over near Utah. It's on the western slope, and it's
Mhm.
just kind of like a mountain biking mecca. There's all kinds of great trails there, so I spend a good amount of time mountain biking. It's gotten a little bit funky just because I have to like really work hard to not hurt myself when I go do these sports. I used to just be like, oh, I'll just send it, like what's worst can happen. But now that my like job is, having a healthy right arm, I'm like, I
Mhm.
gotta take a little better care of myself. So I've definitely been riding less and just doing stuff that I like know I can ride versus, going off big jumps and drops and stuff. But it's a great pastime, great kind of cross training, keep your cardio, up to date.
Mhm.
So, and then on top of that, during the off season, I get a little bit of skiing. We live, 45 minutes from our local ski area there, so it's kind of
Very
like
good.
the winter side of the mountain biking. It's kind of the same feeling, get out there and yeah, it's just a rush. So definitely got to do a little bit of that. Unfortunately, it is like early season skiing, so the
Mhm.
good stuff doesn't pick up until sometime in February when we're actually like fully in the swing of disc golf. So
Right. You missed that really good powder.
yeah, exactly.
But yeah, we've been getting some crazy weather. I know the snow finally started to result in some snow here in the Sierras. I'm sure it's kind of creeped its way over the mountain there too. But you're safely down south in the sunshine.
Yeah, there's been a lot of rain here lately. This is the most I've seen it rain in Arizona in a long time, which
Yeah.
I know it's like anyone that's like getting snow is like, oh, boo-hoo. But it's like, it came here for like nice weather, good practice conditions. And it's just been pretty stormy the last like 2, 3 weeks.
Yeah, it's true. A lot. The atmospheric river is very active in
Yeah.
2024. But again, being on the pro tours, we often talk about on this podcast. You're exposed to the elements on the regular, so it's probably good to
Oh,
get a
yeah.
little bit of that inclement practice in.
Yeah, especially last year. I think that after like we went to Europe, starting in
Hmm.
Norway, every single event we played the rest of the year had some kind of weather delay. So it's just
Hmm.
like you have to get used to it. You have to adapt to the circumstances. And yeah, I played several rounds in the rain, just being like, hey, it's good practice. It won't be fun, but it'll it'll help me out down the road.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, the most recent one I can think of is back there at the playoff at MVP,
Hmm.
right when we had the wind and wind warning, and then they
Yeah,
had
that was a wild
heavy
one.
heavy thunderstorms going through. That's again part of the mental battle, right?
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah, the wind one. I've never heard of a weather delay for wind before, but if you were
Hmm.
there for that day, you know that the wind was ripping. It was
It
pretty
it was
wild.
it was appropriate. And again, heavily wooded track, and so player safety obviously paramount there. But got to be a mental struggle as you were battling for the win.
Yeah, a little bit. One of the interesting things about it is I think that I played 5 holes before they called the delay, and I think I was
Hmm.
4 down through five. Playing in that
Hmm.
wind. So I was like, I don't know. I played in wind that was definitely at least this bad, in several tournaments, Colorado,
Hmm.
DEO, stuff like that. So I think the main difference was that since it's so wooded there, they were worried about spectators, having a
For
tree
sure.
fall on them or something like that. So
Yeah, a lot of
at
people
the end of
talking
the
about
day,
that.
yeah, it's not my job to decide that kind of thing. I just am along for the ride.
Yeah. Yeah, we talk about the wind. I think the Midwest still has the title for worst wind, and Colorado is no stranger to that. Talk a little bit about uh, growing up there in Colorado and dealing with those conditions. Again, playing at elevation, how it's adapted into your game here on the Pro
Yeah,
Tour.
yeah, for sure. So, yeah, I was born and raised in Colorado. My dad got me into the sport when I was a kid, so I've been playing at elevation, my whole life.
Hmm.
And one of the interesting things about Colorado is that if you go play tournaments, it's not like, yo, you're just playing at elevation. It's like I live at 4,000 feet, and then I'll go play a tournament at 7,000 feet, and then I'll go
Hmm.
play a different tournament at 5,000 feet. So it's like it's always changing. So like
Hmm.
every tournament, you'd have to like adapt to that a little bit. And it's a different style of golf. I notice it mainly on the stability and like the glide that I get on the discs, and then
Hmm.
also a little bit on the putting. I think that after a certain like amount of time, your putts just start dropping off a little bit more.
Hmm.
versus
Mm-hmm.
at lower elevations, you can get a little bit more glide, a little farther. So first time I went down to like lower elevation and played, I was like, wow, this is a whole different style. It would take me a while to adapt to this. And
Mm-hmm.
that's one of the reasons I started moving out to Arizona as kind of like this middle point, getting me ready for the actual season, just
Mm-hmm.
because it is a slightly different style of golf and it is good to like adapt to it rather than just be thrown straight into it.
Right.
I played in college, so kind of my first I don't know, real dose of playing at low elevation was when we flew to Georgia to play the collegiate nationals,
Oh
and
wow.
just like everything, you go straight from Colorado to sea level, the like dry
Humidity.
mountain air to the humidity. Exactly, it's a whole
Mm-hmm.
different style of play, and if you're just like from one to the other, it's hard to adapt for sure. So I've been getting better at it, but definitely my style of play suits the mountain golf a little bit more.
And do you think that attributes a little bit to your snap and power and just that style as you're trying to kind of generate some more stability on those throws, but still not lose too much glide?
Yeah, so kind of a good way I'd put it is like almost everyone in Colorado throws hard, and you can just see it in the way the disc like pops out of their hand. They throw
Mm-hmm.
really fast, and you kind of have to in order to create the same like glide effects that you see at sea level. So you'll
Mm-hmm.
see a lot of players that are a lot smoother that have played at sea level for a long time that just throw these like nice smooth hyzer flips, those kinds of shots. And you'll see players like I don't know me and Eagle, Joel
Mm-hmm.
Freeman, a lot of us are throwing a lot more force overs just
Mm-hmm.
because we're used to that style of just getting these big S's rather than these like touchy hyzer flips. So it's a little bit different style, and you can kind of see it in the way we play. But I think it's also a useful thing, like useful tool to have. And then a
Mm-hmm.
lot of players like Yuli will even say that if you are good at throwing elevation, you can
Mm-hmm.
throw farther in the mountains than you can at sea level. It's just a different style of throw. I know
Mm-hmm.
I've seen Yuli bomb some 600-foot shots, up in the mountains, but down at sea level, everyone's like, oh, where he doesn't have as much distance. So
Mm-hmm.
it's interesting how those two different play styles are slightly different from each other.
Yeah, that is the great thing too about the variety of courses that you all get to play. So you're not just always playing the similar style golf and a similar style weather. You really are getting that variety. And I think we've seen as the season gets on, the elevation comes in more, maybe not total elevation, but just elevation change at least as
Hmm.
on the courses themselves. So challenging that physical element as well as the skill level. And then, yeah, no Colorado golf though this season on the pro tour. So we're a little we're trying to get some more dates out west. We'll see what we can do about that. Who
For
else
sure.
do you? Yeah.
Well, we'd love to get some kind of tournament up in the mountains. The issue right now is we just don't have any courses that I'm aware of that are like pro tour level at
Mm-hmm.
elevation. So
Mm-hmm.
as soon as we like someone finds the land, puts in the money, puts in the time, and can create a course that's of that caliber, I think it'd be
Mm-hmm.
really nice to have that like juxtaposition. So have that difference between playing at sea level, playing at altitude, and a lot of people are like, "Oh, everyone's just scared to play at altitude," and that's
Mm-hmm.
not the case. There just aren't any events. So
Mm-hmm.
it'll be interesting to see who would excel, playing at altitude if we could get a good course there.
You think it comes down to more just infrastructure issues rather than the golf itself?
Yeah, I think that Colorado is a lot of par three kind of golf, and
Okay.
we're definitely more in that mindset of like recreational play. And we've got some good courses, some good tournaments, but nobody's in the mindset of, hey, we want a pro tour event here. And
Mm-hmm.
as soon as we get someone that has the money, that has the resources, that has that mindset, that's when we're going to start seeing, a course pop up there. Versus, a lot of these other places are like, that's our only goal is we want this to be a pro tour stop.
Mm-hmm.
That's why we put this course in.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, just a little bit different mindset, in my opinion.
What is your favorite one of the Alpine Colorado courses? Because we were at Bailey for match play. I know there's a bunch of great courses in that region, up just an hour or so from Denver. But which is your favorite?
So what is it? Beaver Ranch is
Beaver
a really
Ranch, I
nice
believe. Yep.
one. I played that one back at I think it was the Harvest.
Hmm.
Really fun course for like mountain golf. I'd say Winter Park is also one of my favorites. I've played that tournament several times. My overall favorite course in Colorado is Riverbend Park in Palisade. It's a really
Okay.
solid course, but it doesn't quite have it's more of like a park vibe to it that's just like at, 4,200 feet. So
Mm-hmm.
it doesn't have that like actual mountain golf like vibe to it as much.
Mm-hmm. Hmm. Talk a little bit about, you mentioned Eagle, you mentioned Joel Freeman, where's Colton's a Colorado guy. What was it
Yep.
like? Again, you said you were playing juniors with Eagle, right?
Yep.
Describe that situation a little bit.
So it's interesting. I saw like all three of those guys like rise up through the ranks. So I used to play like junior tournaments against Eagle, and he was like always better than me. He's super into it. Even when we started getting better, he was playing advanced when I was playing intermediate. He was playing open when I was playing advanced. And
Mm-hmm.
there's a bunch of my buddies like Tyler Liebman. He's a old school golfer in Colorado. He was always like, yeah, at least I beat Eagle McMahon back in the day before he got big and turned pro. I never had that. I lost to Eagle like I think the first time I may have ever beat Eagle was at Worlds like 2 years ago, which
Mm-hmm.
is kind of crazy for the amount of like tournaments I've played against him.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a little crazy in that aspect. But then those other players too. So like Joe Revere, anyone that's in Colorado knows that's the top dog. He's the guy you take on any round over
Shout out
any
Joe
player.
Revere.
Yeah. And for a while, Joe was winning all the tournaments, and then each of those guys kind of came up through the mix. And Joel
Mm-hmm.
Freeman, especially, was the only person that could really challenge Joe for a long time. They would battle head to head at a lot of these tournaments, and then Joel went on to Pro Tour, became famous, and made the
Mm-hmm.
Pro Tour finals, all that stuff. Eagles the
Mm-hmm.
same way, came through challenging Joe, doing the same thing. Even
Mm-hmm.
Colton, I played a couple tournaments with Colton where I was like, wow, this guy's on a different level than the rest of us right now. Just playing
Mm-hmm.
some phenomenal disc golf, and then jumped up to the Pro Tour level. So I don't know. Everyone kind of goes through there, and they kind of gauge just whether or not that that player can contend with Joe in Colorado.
Mm-hmm.
And even if they are contending, it's like you're not safe. I don't know. I've played many tournaments where I was playing the best disc golf of my life and still just getting smoked by Joe. So
Well, you're not alone there because he's getting Masters world titles now.
yeah, I'm glad he finally started playing some of these bigger events, branching outside of Colorado, and I'm really happy that he's gotten those two Master World titles because he works hard. He's a great competitor, and yeah, just he's a monster out there. If you ever played against him, one of the most intimidating competitors to play against, but he's a good guy.
That's a great name, a great reference. Anyone else in the sort of Colorado disc golf lore that you'd like to shout out?
Oh man, there's so many of them. It's the Colorado disc golf is just
Yeah.
absolutely wild. So I got to
I,
shout out our local legend, JC Kester, monster thumber. This guy throws a thumber 500 feet, and he went off for quite a while where he was just, he was challenging Joe too, shooting
mm-hmm.
1050, 1060 golf, just
Mm-hmm.
complete thumber player, thumber forehand. Rob Nichols, another really solid player. Some crazy stories with him. Mitch Sonderfan. Um, I don't know. Even like Kyle Griffin was briefly on tour. He went out of his mind. He played the second highest rated tournament of all time in Colorado. So I mean, just some wild stories in Colorado. The guys there, just I don't know. It leads to good tournaments. And yeah, a lot of good stories.
Well, I feel like it's definitely important in the disc golf sort of progression, right? Because you have, is it the right flight? Is that the name of the shop there in Fort Collins, or
Right life.
uh,
Yep.
Right Life, and
Yep.
early disc golf shop, possibly one of the very first shops selling disc golf equipment. And again, I've talked to Scott a few times. Scott was there kind of around that time. But if you look at California, you look at Texas, you look at Colorado, I feel like in the 80s, important hotbeds of disc golf as we move through generations. And it's just interesting to see and hear the history and hear names like Joe Revere, who, again, for you guys, it's that benchmark. And then obviously
Yeah.
having other guys climbing the ladder with you at the same time is pretty cool.
Yeah, definitely. I'm not like huge in on like the history of disc golf, so it's
Hmm.
everyone I'm talking about are people that I've witnessed personally. It's just
Hmm.
like some great players, and I know that
Well, you've
there's a
just
bunch
been
of them.
living it.
Yeah.
right? You've just been in it your whole time,
Yeah,
more or
this is
less.
just stuff I've seen. These are
Yeah.
experiences I've had. So it's like there's a whole bunch of other legends, from the sport there that's just like I wasn't part of the game at that time as well. So
Hmm. Who else? I do have a question here from Danny here in the
okay.
shop. Getting back to your snap a little bit. Who's an up and coming player that you think has a similar kind of pop, or maybe he's a Colorado guy, maybe he's not. Maybe one guy who you play with, you're like, man, that guy has incredible snap. Who's a well-known pro, and then maybe one who's an up and comer who maybe we'll be more aware of after 2024.
Okay, so this is probably not exactly what you're looking for, but I'll throw Tristan Tanner into this mix.
Okay.
I played with him back before either one of us was on tour,
Hmm.
and he jumped from like an 890 player to 990 player in 1 year. And
Okay.
the craziest thing about him was his snap. He would just have the slowest walk up you've ever seen in your life, and then just throw the disc so much harder than you thought he possibly could. It was
Hmm.
just kind of like baffling at the time for all of us for how hard he was throwing the disc with absolutely no walk up. So Tristan Tanner, wild guy to watch, coming up through the ranks. And then like the next year he went on the pro tour. So
Hmm.
of
Hmm.
course we've seen him on, footage and stuff since then. So definitely one of those guys that just has that Colorado snap out of nowhere. I don't know.
Nice. No, that's perfect. That's a good answer. But we know Tristan Tanner, so you got to give me another one. You got to give me a an up and comer
An
or
up and
someone who
comer.
yeah. And also, I have to
Goodness.
ask, do you guys have a tech disc between you there in Arizona? So are you getting the stats? What are we topping out at? Are we breaking 80? What's our MPH going at?
So I got a tech disc and I've thrown it some while I was in Colorado. I got a net that I was throwing into. My average throws are right at like 72, 73 miles an hour. I can
Hmm.
get it up to like 76, 77 if I'm throwing like an Anheuser release, really like laying into it.
Hmm.
And then recently, AB and I did a video. We were looking at stuff. We threw a like 120 scorch, and I was able to break 80 with the 120
Okay,
scorch. Um,
not a
AB was
sustainable model though.
Yeah, AB was up at like 89, something like that. So
Oh my God.
definitely getting a lot more speed than I'm getting. But yeah, as far as like numbers go, it's somewhere around there for me. And then I'm throwing really nose up versus a lot of players are throwing flatter, more nose
Hmm.
down.
Hmm.
And then as far as like the spin to like spin ratio, sorry, speed to spin ratio, I
Hmm.
think I'm a little bit lower on that range. I'm getting less spin on the disc versus I think players like Ricky, like AB are getting more spin on the disc in
Okay.
comparison to how fast they're throwing. So just that's what I've noticed recently myself. Um, I don't know.
You're
Yeah, go ahead.
as you talk about this stuff, I know you have an engineering background, computer science background. Have you thought about applying sort of data analysis to your approach, your off-season approach, or your training?
Yeah, I was thinking about like what would be more beneficial, things like that. So I really like worked hard on like changing my form slightly to see if I could change those numbers a little bit, and I was
Hmm.
getting a pretty like I could like change those numbers. The if I focused on specific things, I could get more spin on the disc. I could get the nose down. I could do a lot of things like that. And then
Hmm.
overall, I was like, these are decent things to like practice and try out, but they're only going to be useful to me in very specific situations because my throw is so solid as is, just like what I'm doing naturally.
Hmm.
It's hard for me to like justify actually like changing some stuff. What
Hmm.
I'd love to see is someone go to like every player and then just see what the spin to speed ratios are, see what their release angles, all those things are, and
Hmm.
give us some solid data on all of that. And then
Hmm.
hopefully eventually, we'll get to the point where we're reading, speed and spin coming off people's hands, during tournaments, and we can
Right. That
kind
would
of
be
have
some
that gauge.
awesome. That would be some awesome information to have. Just
Yeah.
during live coverage. Obviously, we're getting there.
Yeah, exactly. The other thing that I'd love to see is some like aerodynamic tests, like wind tunnels, like aerospace engineering kind of stuff. Just seeing how, air moves around the disc and what's
Hmm.
optimal. What does the spin do for it? What's I don't know everything that goes on there, and how to best like maximize your speed and your distance and your consistency.
Have you ever had the chance to walk around one of your sponsors' facilities and kind of nerd out for a while and kind of check out the manufacturing part of it? I mean, I'm sure they're doing models like that. I know Trash Panda's talked about his process and using those different models for developing their discs and getting them approved. But have you ever had a chance to just go to the Discraft factory and kind of see how the sausage is made?
So I've never been part of the actual like creation of the mold and stuff like that.
Hmm.
I've seen the molds and I've seen them like make the discs in the factory, and
Hmm.
it's a really cool process on how all that
Hmm.
works. But I've never been part of like that engineering aspect of like what goes into shaping the disc the way we want it and really designing excuse me, exactly what we're looking for. Um,
Hmm.
I think that one really cool thing someone could do is go at it from with like a carbon fiber, um,
Okay.
and you could really like build the disc exactly how you want it. Get rid of a lot of the I don't know, the defects and stuff that come with like plastic molding. And if you went with like
Hmm.
a carbon fiber like pressing, and you can make the shape exactly how you're looking for, you could get a little bit more accurate on what is ideal. Then you could work
Hmm.
with like weight distribution as well. You could put like more weight in the rim, less weight in the rim. You could see how that affects how the disc flies a
Hmm.
little bit more. And I think that I don't know, molding with carbon fiber might be a direction the sport goes in, if we're like trying to get the top tier product to the top end players. It will make it
Hmm.
more expensive, which is kind of like the opposite direction of what our sport is entirely, since
Hmm.
we're so like,
I think it certainly makes the disc more lethal.
yeah, definitely more lethal. But
Might
just
have to,
thought
we
I
have
had.
special courses. But no, it would be interesting to see almost like, again, a lighter weight discus style disc, a disc that's not going to wear, a disc that's not going to lose its
Right.
integrity or shape or become misformed, as we see, and it is kind of a good and bad thing about throwing plastic is that your discs do change, but then it's
Yeah,
also bad that some change more than others, obviously.
definitely.
But so a little bit of your other background, multi sports, growing up. Tell me a little bit about tennis though, and how it applies to your disc golf game. Because I
So,
do notice that you have the well-rounded game. That's one thing that we like about you. You can kind of throw the appropriate shot for the condition because you have
right.
the full arsenal, backhand and forehand.
Yeah, I think I've said this for a while, but I think tennis probably applies to disc golf more than just about any other sport that I played.
Hmm.
Um, and the thing is, like, looking through all the sports I played baseball, tennis, some lacrosse, all these other things. A lot of it is this like hip rotation. It's this like engaging your legs and your core to create this motion that's it's just kind of like what a swing is. And so I noticed it especially when I started playing ball golf a little bit, is I just was like naturally able to generate a lot of speed. I didn't have a lot of the like technical bits that lead to consistency in golf, but I
Hmm.
can swing a golf club really hard, and that's just
Hmm.
from this motion, this rotation that I've generated from all my sports.
Hmm.
And the reason I like tennis so much is because it is both backhand and forehand. So you get what it's like to throw like both shots, to be able to rotate from both sides. And the forehand in tennis correlates so much more to the forehand in disc
Hmm.
golf and the backhand as well. So overall, I put in so much time into tennis. I played all throughout high school, and then I was going to
Okay.
play in college, but I got injured my like the senior year of high school. So I didn't end up doing anything much with the tennis after that. But the other thing it correlates to, which is kind of funny, is the pickleball. I love going
I
out with
was
the
gonna
guys,
say.
playing pickleball after the rounds. It's a lot of fun, and I don't know. Some of the guys grind really hard at the pickleball and are really solid at it, versus I'm just kind of like a gifted racket sports player because I played so much tennis. So
Hmm.
I don't know, the whole pickleball game doesn't make as much sense to me, but it's just like the swinging the paddle makes a lot of sense. So
Well, it's nice of you to lower your standards for the pickleball crowd. Would you say you were kind of a would you battle it on the back line in tennis, or were you an aggressive player and would you be going to the net?
I would say that my best shot's definitely my serve, and then
Mhm,
probably next to that is my volleys. So I was a really
mhm.
solid doubles player because that
Okay.
was one of the best parts of my game. But when I started getting really good, I just started grinding at the baseline because that's what
Yep.
everybody does for the most part in singles. So yeah, like my junior, senior years of high school, I just put almost all my efforts into that like baseline grind, and I got a
Hmm.
lot better at that. So I've got a pretty well-rounded tennis game overall. But I don't know, the serve was definitely my biggest weapon.
Hmm. Cool. He's sort of an Andy Roddick type over here. The big serve. Uh, yeah, I got a few more questions for you if you still have time.
Yeah, definitely.
I wanted to hear a little bit about because you did start up a disc golf club when you got to college, right?
Yeah. So I went to Boulder for a year, and it wasn't really my scene. So I came back to Carter Mesa University, which is where I'm from. And
Okay.
when I got there, my buddy Landon from high school, Landon Flutterjohn, he's another guy. I got a shout out from Colorado. Just
Hmm.
like probably no one's heard the name much. The guy throws just as far forehand and backhand as I do. It's just absolutely disgusting. So when I got there, he's like, "Hey, Aaron, I was playing at CSU, and I want to start up a club at Mesa." And I was like, "Dude, I'm totally in." So the two of us together made the team happen, and it's one of the coolest experiences I've had in disc golf, just because it took an individual sport and turned it into a team sport, and you
Hmm.
just don't ever get that in disc golf. So
Hmm.
anybody that has the opportunity to play college disc golf, I do recommend it. I think it's a great experience, and you're not going to get it ever again. So for me, it's like I went pro and I had like one more year of eligibility, and I was like, dude, if I had made like $5,000 less that last year, I could have played one more year of college, disc golf. And it's not like I'm doing it just to win or anything like that. I just love playing with the guys, with my friends, and having that team
Hmm.
base, that
Hmm.
camaraderie. And then yeah, I drove out and watched them play last year as well. So the whole thing was a really cool experience for sure.
That's awesome. And then again, you said competing in the national championship, so getting to travel, and what a
Right.
great memory that is.
Yeah. So basically, since we're from Colorado and there weren't many schools around us, we just had to like travel to a tournament and then qualify. So we
Hmm.
only, when I was there, we only played
What
like two
division? What
tournaments.
division were you playing in for college
When I was
earlier?
playing, it was all one division. It
Okay.
was just like club
Whoever had a
disc
disc golf
golf.
team club.
Whoever had a disc
Okay.
golf team. We were a
Yeah.
Division 2 school, and we were playing against Division 1 schools.
Okay.
So just everybody, it was part of the same thing. I think
Hmm.
it's gotten bigger now, and they have like conferences and they have
Hmm.
actual divisions now. So it's a little bit different than when I was there, but
Hmm.
it's still the same dynamic. You get the 4-person doubles team where you're all playing singles and then adding your scores together, and then you're all playing the
Hmm.
4-person doubles, and yeah, it's a blast.
Who's your dream doubles partner? Was one thing I wanted to ask you. You can go any era, the disc
Any
golfer.
era.
Yeah, but who do you think would be your dream match, your dream partner?
Good question. So if I was going to play doubles with anyone, I'd probably choose my dad. I've played several tournaments with him, and anyone that's ever played doubles with their dad understands what it's like. I mean, even like JC and Joe will be like, dude, playing against Eagle and Pat at some of these
Hmm.
doubles tournaments, they were disgusting pair. So
Mm.
I've had some experiences like that with my dad, where it's a lot of fun. Two of us, playing with each other. So that's kind of like my dream team for just like having
For
fun.
sure. Yeah,
I
yeah.
think if I were gonna go like I've always joked with Andrew Marweed about this, about how if
Okay.
they come out with a doubles like I don't know tournament or something like that, we got to be
Hmm.
partners, just because he's the best. We complement our games so well. He's the best putter in the world. I've got super solid drives. I throw far forehand, backhand. He throws very smooth, consistent, accurate. Not
Hmm.
quite as far forehand, backhand. So I think together would be a super solid team.
Yeah, I think you're right about that. Uh, so yeah, 2024 sneaking up. We'll just get things wrapped up here. Back to back third place finishes at OTB Open. So you're knocking on the door there. What other? We're obviously going to be excited to have you come back to Stockton this year, but what other tournaments are you looking forward to in 2024?
Good question. I think the number one trip I'm looking forward to the most is going to be the European trip again.
Hmm.
We're playing, I think, a different course in Norway, and I'm playing Estonia for the first time. And then on top of that, I think they may be adding a second course to the European Open. So I think the whole trip will be definitely a different vibe from last time. And it was one of my favorite
Hmm.
experiences from last year. So that whole trip, I'm really looking forward to. And then, of course, the West Coast Swing is always a good time for me. Looking forward to coming back to OTB. That's one of my favorite courses. And yeah, that's always a good time. And then as well, Portland. I played super well at Portland last year.
Hmm.
That's another one I think suits my game really well. And then even Beaver State Fling. It's not
Yeah,
exactly,
that was a
yeah,
strong run of the season for you in 2023.
yeah, exactly. It was really fun course, and I think if they added some like more difficulty to it, they really made some of the holes longer, added some out of bounds, did some things like that. I think they could make it a
Hmm.
really solid tour course, and it's just a beautiful area. So I'm really looking forward to going back there.
For sure. Um, One last question, and we'll get you out of here. 2022 is the breakout year, would you say?
Yeah, pretty much.
2020.
Yep.
How did you feel about 2023, and how did it shape your self expectations and your goals here for 2024?
Yeah, so 2022, I would say, yeah, like you said, it's a breakout year. I had the great finish at Worlds. I played some other solid tournaments on top of that. So going into 2023, I kind of had in the back of my head this like mindset that I'm like, hey, 2022 was great, and it's going to be hard to like play at that level again. So like,
Hmm.
you could say like the Worlds finish. It's a little bit lucky to like be in that situation at that stage. It's like it's hard to do that again.
It's
So
a
I
game
was
of
a
breaks.
little,
Everyone's playing at such a high level. That's why it's
yeah.
5 rounds. Yeah.
Exactly. So 2023, I was like, hey, just try to go out and be consistent. And I was able to accomplish that. And honestly, I'm more proud of my 2023 season than my 2022 because I was so
Awesome.
consistent. I missed cash once the entire season. And then
Yep.
on top of that, I had many, top 20 finishes that, you
Hmm.
don't see as often. And then I had several, top 10, top 5 finishes as well, where, just a few less mistakes, things like that. Things are going a little bit differently there. So the biggest key that's been going for me is just staying like in the moment, staying focused, and then driving really well. I've been giving myself a lot of opportunities, and I think that the more I put myself in those situations, the better I'll get at handling being in that moment, and that'll just come with time. And so going into 2024, I'm hoping to just keep that same mindset, that consistency, and really, yeah, build on that last season.
Yeah, definitely had the consistency last year. Love to see it. And then again, just building on the previous successes and keeping things in perspective. And it sounds like, again, with your travel routine, as you've learned more, as you're a little more comfortable on the road and have that experience built in, I'm sure it's going to pay off. Have they always called you Goose?
Yeah.
I know,
So
I know there's the relation to your cousin, the
yep.
famous Goose Gossage. But so that stuck early on as a kid.
Oh yeah, almost all my cousins, everyone, they're like, I've been called Goose since I was a kid. It's how it goes. It just makes sense with the name, and on top of that, the people that know it,
There we go.
also are like,
We got the
oh,
buff goose. The buff
yep.
goose it looks good on a disc.
And then it just like leads to just like great marketing for the disc golf
Hmm.
crowd. So at this point, it's just like I've been called that for so long that it's just like what it's become at this point. Um,
Very, very good.
yeah.
Well, it's a good nickname. So Goose, thanks for joining us here on a morning round podcast.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I always appreciate, getting on podcasts, getting to share some ideas. So,
You're going to be back with Discraft this year, signed through 2025. Go ahead and
yep.
give us the rundown. Give us the shout outs for this touring season.
Oh,
Starting
yeah.
with Discraft there.
Yeah, Discraft Disc Golf. My bag sponsor is Pound Disc Golf this year. Really been happy with that. Just picked up the OTB retail sponsor. So,
Yep.
happy to go with that again. Still going to be representing Ideo Sports for shoes,
Mhm.
and then Chump Shock is our my shock sponsor. So those are the big ones at the moment, and yeah, excited going into the season. I think that it's going to be another really solid year, and yeah, hope it turns out as good as last year.
Very good. All right, Aaron. Thank you for once again for coming on. Thank you to Stanley for handling the ones and twos. We'll let you go. Enjoy the rest of your day, and best of luck here in 2024.
Awesome. Thank you, sir.
All right, everybody. Thanks again for tuning in to the Morning Round podcast. Stay tuned for more exciting tips on the OTB YouTube and more interviews like this from a Morning Round. And we'll see you next time. Bye.